What is going on, guys? Trey is coming back at your screen by means of the World Wide Web, and I wanted to go ahead and get into the second part of our prize highlights video. So this time around we're going to be talking about the first 4 dungeon heroes, starting with Mr. Shruck here. Shruck, big snake viper looking blue thingy here. I actually think it got a pretty decent look. I don't think it looks too bad. Shruck is a air champ, so he has the heightened HP, heightened attack, heightened defense, wisdom, and agility are so-so. Shruck has the cooldown of 1, and his skill is counter elite. It is a counter attack, as the name suggests, so if you get hit, then he will counter attack. The sweet thing about the counter skill, guys, is although it has a cooldown of 1, if no one attacks him, it won't waste the cooldown. So the following turn, he will still be ready to proc that counter until he is hit. So that's the sweet thing about it. But Shruck, all in all, is so-so. Intermediate, advanced definitely can use them. Or beginner and intermediate, can definitely find some use out of them. Advanced players, it all depends on what they're trying to do strategically, because this guy has a purpose, but you just gotta know how to use him. And he has really high defense though, 4,501 defense. So but he only has 2,691 HP. So 9 times out of 10, if you really want to use this guy, you're really going to have to superfuse him with some HP for him to be effective, because in order for your cooldown skill to be useful, you're going to have to survive the attack. So with 2,691 HP, there's a majority of fighters out there that can just wipe that right off. So in order for this fighter to be any kind of useful, guys, superfuse him with some HP and he'll definitely be a much better fighter. Alright, moving on to the star here. We got Sulagrand. Sulagrand look is alright. She's an earth guru with the big old flower on her in her hair there. But Sulagrand, as I stated before, is an earth guru, but she has a ton of wisdom, guys. 6,558 wisdom. That is a ton of wisdom. Her skill is thwart, which is basically preempt that uses wisdom for the damage it deals instead of attack. So definitely a good skill, and she's auto proc, which is another great thing. So auto proc thwart, very high wisdom, but where she lacks at is agility, guys. So although she will go first in against any other fighter that does not have the preempt or thwart skill, if she does happen to come up against another fighter that has that skill, her agility is very low and she will probably be outsped by another fighter. So I mean, you can superfuse her with some agility to get her agility really high, but even still, I don't imagine you'll be able to superfuse it so high to where she'll be able to outspeed every fighter out there that has the preempt or thwart skill. And we'll talk more on that a little bit later in this video. But for a guru, she also has a ton of HP, once again, just like Bombazin, the white Dracula. 3,225 HP. That is quite a bit of HP for a guru. Granted, don't really got much in the defense department, so she'll probably die 9 times out of 10 anyway. But for a guru, that is a considerable amount of HP. And Sulagrand can be used on all levels. Just be sure to superfuse her correctly, guys. My opinion, agility would be the best thing to superfuse her with, because she already has a metric ton of wisdom. Okay, moving on to Urvak here, our Golbahar recolor. Urvak is a fire warlock. He's just a recolor of Golbahar, so I personally think he's an uglier color. I think Golbahar's colors look way better. But he's a fire warlock, so he's going to have the heightened attack and the heightened wisdom. Everything else, not so hot. His skill is Scorch Elite, but where this guy just is horrible. That is his cooldown. 5 for 5. This guy has a cooldown of 3, which is horrible. That is terrible. So this guy 9 times out of 10, if you're a beginner, maybe even intermediate, you'll find some use. But advanced players, I can tell you right now, he's straight up superfuse fodder. Superfuse fodder for attack, superfuse fodder for wisdom, whichever you would like to choose. It is up to you. He does have more attack, 45-47, than wisdom, coming in at 43-17. But no matter which one you use, you'll get a considerable amount. But advanced players are just going to superfuse him, guys. So not really much going on with this guy. And then the last one we're going to consider today is going to be Nerukin. I kind of like this guy's look like a merman or something like that. Big old fish fins all over his head and stuff. This guy has a pretty cool look. Nerukin is, I'm going to guess, is a water rogue. So he's going to have the heightened agility and the pretty decent attack. His skill and spirit all adept. This is a skill that raises the attack of the entire line. So whoever you swipe him with when he's ready to use his cooldown skill, all 3 fighters will get a boost to their attack. He has a cooldown of 2, which is typical of this skill. To my knowledge, there's nothing better than a cooldown of 2. So he does have the best cooldown in this department as of this moment. But this guy is one you want to use strategically, guys. Something like Mob Boss or maybe even Siege. You probably want to use this guy in order to power up your fighters with that extra oomph and deal that much more damage to the Mob Boss or to the BP boss of the Siege events, if we even have those anymore. But that's what you want to use this guy for. He needs to be used strategically, guys. Alright, so now that we've considered them, of course we got to go compare them. So let's make our way over to do a few comparisons. So the first one we're going to compare here is Sruk, the air champ there. And who I'm going to compare Sruk to is the best comparison I could find. Not really like super duper close, but it's the closest one, one that I thought was pretty close, or as close as I could find anyway. If I can find the guy, where in the world is he at? Oh man. Oh, here he is. I'm overlooking him like crazy. What's wrong with me? Alright, we have Puba here. Puba is the closest one I can find, guys. There are a few differences between the fighters. Let's discuss that really quick. Puba has 1,922 more HP, but Puba also has 2,251 less defense. Now Sruk has 1,906 more attack, 1,241 more wisdom, and 405 more agility. They're both counter elite with a cooldown of 3-1. So statistically, Sruk is better, but Puba isn't much below him, is the way I guess I could say it. Puba has a ton of HP already, so if you wanted to, you can maybe fuse Puba, super fuse him with maybe 1 HP and 2 defense and bring him pretty close. Or you can do the opposite with Sruk. Maybe superfuse him with 2 HP, or maybe all HP, or 2 HP in the defense, however you want to do it. But me personally, I'll do 3 HP on him. But these fighters can be brought pretty close within one another if you were to superfuse them. But statistically speaking, Sruk is the better fighter. So if you have a Puba and you're actively using this guy, you may want to go ahead and consider or think about using Sruk. He is the better fighter statistically. Now, onward to our next comparison here. We'll be comparing Sulagrand, who is our new Thwart Elite. And I thought it'd be fair to compare him to our pretty recent Thwart Elite here, Mr. Conifenius. Now, here are the stat comparisons, guys. Sula has 1,349 more HP. Connie has 676 more attack, which pretty much does not matter because once they're both auto proc, attack is pretty much out of the window. Connie has 136 defense, more defense I should say, which also doesn't matter because if either one of them get hit, they're dead by pretty much anything worth using. Sula has 1,503 more defense, but Connie has 4,146 more agility. Now, remember earlier I told you we were going to talk about Sula here. So the deal is Sula definitely has more wisdom. But Conifenius, I've already seen him. He's been super fused pretty much up to what Sula has. So Conifenius's wisdom can be brought up to what Sula has with good super fusion. But the problem is Sula agility. I'm thinking no matter how good you try to super fuse her, her agility will not be brought up to Connie's at 6,333. I didn't really sit down and do the math to try to see whether or not this is true, but it's quite a feat to super fuse a fighter with 4,200 approximately 4,200 agility. That is a considerable amount, guys. So is it impossible? I don't want to say so. Like I said, I didn't sit down to do any math or anything like that, but it's much easier to fuse Connie with 1,500 wisdom than it is to fuse Sula with 4,200 or so agility. So what that means is although Sula will hit harder with her thwart, judging off of base stats, Connie will always go first, which will basically mean Sula won't stand a chance if they were to go head to head, is what that means. So if you already have Connie, stick to him. My opinion, stick to him. He's the better fighter, and I'm sure he's also going to be the more expensive out of the two as well. But if you are able to acquire Sula she is not a bad one to have on your team as well. She's actually pretty decent. Okay, the next one we're going to compare here is Ervac, who is our Golbahar recolor. We're going to compare Ervac. It's a little bit of a difference here, but there's still a pretty similar comparison. But we're going to compare Ervac to Kaboom right here, Clifford. We got Clifford the big red dog here. So they're both fire warlocks. The main differences between these two guys, Ervac is Scorch Elite with a cooldown of 5-3, and Clifford here is Scorch All Adept with a cooldown of 5-3. So Ervac is hitting one, Clifford here is hitting all. That's really the main difference between these two. Otherwise, Ervac is the better fighter statistically, but not by much. He has 89 more HP, 209 more attack, 44 more defense, 198 more wisdom, and 60 more agility. But the thing is, guys, Ervac just really ain't that good, and neither is Clifford here. In my opinion, they're both straight up super fused fodder. But if you're a beginner and maybe even an intermediate, you can find use for them for a little while. But be looking to get rid of both of these things soon, guys. But if you are using Clifford here, do yourself a favor, and for a short period of time, I hope you can upgrade and use Ervac for a little while, although he is only single target and not all target like Clifford here. And last but not least, we have to compare our buddy Narrowkin here. So we're going to compare Narrowkin to the only one that really seemed sensible, at least in my opinion, Mr. Merodach here. Now Merodach was all the rage when he first came out, guys, because everybody's all about Merodach. He's in spirit all the depth. I mean, he just caused a lot of hype. And we're going to compare him to Narrowkin. Now, These fighters are extremely similar, guys. They're both in spirit, all adept. They both have a cooldown of 4-2. Their elementals are different. Merodach is air, Narakin is water. But statistically speaking, Merodach is the better fighter. Merodach has 60 more HP, 90 more attack, 31 more defense, 17 more wisdom, and 90 more agility. Now, as I said earlier, Narakin is to be used strategically, and it is no different with Merodach. So stats really aren't too important. The main reason you're going to be using them, guys, is just to unleash their cooldown skill to power up your other fighters. That's basically the main purpose of Narakin and Merodach as well. So stats don't really matter too much, guys. I don't know if there's really going to be a considerable cost difference between the two, but in my opinion, if you're just going to be using these guys strategically, just go with Narakin. He's good enough. Merodach is a little better, but he's not meant to really be out on the front line as a fighter. He's just there to try to survive as long as possible, to unleash his cooldown skill as many times as possible before he dies. That's really his only purpose. So there you have it, guys. The second part of our prize highlights discussing the first 4 dungeon heroes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it very informational, or informative, I should say. Please continue to like, favorite, subscribe, share, comment, and everything else. And do know that part 3 will be on the way. We're going to be talking about the final 5 fighters of our prize highlights, so stay tuned for that, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'm out of here. Later.